one piece of advice for people who are in the open enrollment season and what they should be thinking about or considering.
Yes. So open enrollment, this is the one time per year that you can make changes to your benefits. It's really important to pay attention to the benefits that your employer offers. So you're most likely going to be given like a benefits guide or some sort of open enrollment materials that will summarize the entire benefits package for the next plan year. It's an overview, so most likely it's not going to go into a ton of detail, but read through that guide, attend any open enrollment meetings if your employer offers these, ask questions, because if you have a question, chances are someone else in your company is going to have the same question.
Welcome to the Child Free Wealth Podcast, hosted by Bree and Dr. J, Certified Financial Planner. Here we discuss life and finances as it relates to being child-free. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please consult your advisor before implementing any ideas heard on this podcast.
Hello, Child Free Wealth listeners. Today, I'm joined by Christy Smith. She is an employee benefits expert working for the Horton Group, which is a Marsh and McLennan Agency. She's been around the block for employee benefits for many years, working both on the HR side and then now with the brokerage. But Christy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Why don't you go ahead and just tell our listeners a little bit more about you, because you can explain what you do a little bit better than I can.
Sure. As you said, I've worked in HR for about 10 years. I got my degree in marketing because I really had no idea what I wanted to do. And I worked at a couple of companies, and then I realized I had a passion for working with people. So I'm like, I'm going to go back to school for HR. Did that for 10 years, worked in the legal and manufacturing environments. And then during COVID, like a lot of people, I was like, I want to change, but I had such a passion for benefits. And we worked with an employee benefits broker. And I was like, I want to do what you do. So I applied to a couple different companies, got a job as an employee benefits broker, and now have been doing that for 4 years. So what I do as a benefits broker is I work with a lot of HR people at a lot of companies and helping them make sure that they're offering the best benefits for their employees.
I love that. And it's not too often we hear somebody say that I have a passion for benefits. This is often a topic where clients are like, I don't know what to do. I don't even want to look at it. I just click things and be done. Which is, it's so fun to hear how you took that passion and what you done on the HR side and then turned it and then made it into a career in employee benefits. One thing I kind of want to hear, both from your previous experience in HR, but now the employee broker side, what do you think one of the common misconceptions about workplace benefits is?
Yeah, I think one common misconception is that employees might not think that their employee benefits can actually change. So employees may think, the benefits that my company, what they're offering is what they're going to just continue to offer. But however, most employers that we work with on the benefit or on the broker side want to stay ahead of the curve. They want to know what benefits are out there. What are they not offering? So many times we as the broker, we're starting these conversations with our clients while we're talking about open enrollment. But oftentimes we have employers coming to us and saying, hey, we had an employee ask us about this benefit. Do you know anything about it? Have you heard about this benefit? If not, can you look into it? And so that actually helps us learn about benefits that we maybe haven't heard of as well. So I think employees need to be aware that they can and should go to their HR teams and ask them about potentially offering a new benefit. And then on the flip side, those HR teams and leadership of the company should also make sure that they're fostering an environment employees feel comfortable coming to them and asking those questions as well.
I love that. So it's very much a collaborative environment and kind of working together. It doesn't have to be, this is your benefits, that's it. I know many times people will get their benefits package and I hear it all the time. They'll say, well, you suggest that we have disability insurance. I can't get it. So then they just don't do it. But it's something where you could really bring it up and ask the conversation. I always like to say, you never know until you ask. The answer is always going to be no. So just go ahead and ask that question. With that, bringing some of it up, what are some tactics employees can use to hopefully bring a topic up to their employer and have it be well received when it comes to benefits?
Yeah, I think that they can say, hey, my friend or my spouse, whoever in their life offers, it's something that is a new benefit. And I think that it would be beneficial for our employee. I think this benefit would be something that would also maybe help bring in new employees and new talent. I think as a former HR person, we're always trying to find that best talent. So if it's something that can kind of differentiate yourself from other employers, and if it's something that is new, I mean, I promise you, HR people, so if those good HR people really do want to hear about these new benefits because they want to do whatever they can to differentiate themselves, because it's a tough job market. And I think a lot of companies are having a hard time finding really good talent and keeping good talent. So they're definitely, if you can use that angle, I think that that's really going to help a lot.
Hey, Child Free Wealth listeners, it's Bree. I highly encourage you to schedule a Child Free Wealth checkup. During this time, you're going to get a couple of forms to fill out that include your life and financial plan. We'll review them, and then we're going to have a meeting and go through them with you. We're going to give you some advice and things to work on and talk through things to make your finances simpler so your life can be amazing. You can schedule yours by going to our website, childfreewealth.com, and clicking the Schedule Now button.
Absolutely. That's great advice, is saying, hey, these are some things that are really good that we've seen, and just getting an example of it, of, hey, somebody else has this, I know, and it's been fantastic. Could we try it out? Many of the common benefits that we often see are things like health insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, kind of those basic insurances for a lot of clients. That's most often what their benefits package is going to be when they send it in. Sometimes I've seen a range when it comes to those benefits too. It's sometimes you have one plan to choose from and that's your only choice. And other times you have 40 some plans to choose from, which can be really daunting. On your HR side, how did you work through that with employees? Did you work through that with employees?
We did. Yes. I worked for companies that had, two different offerings, and I had companies, like you said, had multiple. And we work also broker side. We see the full gambit as well. In my opinion, less is better because, like you said, too many choices can just be way overwhelming. So there's a couple of things. If you are working with a smaller company, depending on your HR size, but a lot of times, the companies I worked at, we would have one-on-one meetings with employees, and so we would sit down with them and answer questions. But we can't make that decision for them. But there's also some software that employers can add that can help with those decisions. So they can ask employees, what do you expect your medical bills to be next year? Do you have a big surgery coming up? Do you have something, that's going to probably cost a lot of money? So they'll ask those questions and then can help the employee determine, what is the best plan for me, instead of going through, I understand insurance is really confusing, and it is even for someone that works in it, but trying to see if your HR people will sit down with you and have a conversation, I think is a really great place to start.
Yeah, I love that. And I think many times there's this misconception that HR is big, scary person. It's not true. People, they want to work with you. And I know the HR people that I've had in the past, they truly do want to work with you and help you through that. And it's great to know that there's more softwares available. I have seen some of the software, and it feels like whenever I personally put it in, I am totally wrong on whatever my medical things are. Me, I'm like, this year we're looking good, nothing much, and then like wham, that bill comes out of nowhere. I was a caution with that too is don't be too optimistic, just be a little bit realistic. I know we all want to say that there's nothing that's going to happen this year, we're good, or it's going to be quite low. Just you gotta, oftentimes we'll ask clients, are you a lucky person? And lucky can be a variety of different things. But sometimes that does play into it too, whether or not the benefits that you select were right for you, because you're an unlucky person, like me, and you get hit with a lot of that. I'm lucky in parking, but that's about it. But if you're not super lucky when it comes to health insurance benefits, looking for a higher package or more of like the gold package there on the top level, gold or platinum packages, is probably going to be a better option for you versus looking for something like that silver or bronze package as well. We kind of covered those three basic health insurance, vision, and dental insurance things. Dental insurance and vision insurance, I've seen them more be like simply coupons. So they give a little bit of a discount. They're not super fantastic across the board. Have you seen anything different in your work, or can you expand on that further?
Sure. So on the vision side, you're absolutely right. There hasn't been a whole lot of change, I would say, to the vision benefits in the last 20 years. So I'm someone that definitely uses my vision benefits. I wear glasses, contacts, and those are expensive. I know that the premiums that I am paying, what's coming out of my paycheck, I'm paying less in premiums than the benefit that I'm getting. But it's not a giant amount. Vision benefits, you might get $200 maybe at the most towards contacts or glasses. And glasses can be much more expensive than $200. So you're paying a lot of that out of pocket. So that is definitely a benefit that I wish would improve somehow in the future. Dental, I think that dental is becoming a benefit that improving more than on the vision plan. So I've seen things like I wear a night guard. So I've worked for a company that had a night guard benefit. Because if you're wearing a night guard, you're going to hopefully have less dental issues in the future. So having something that can help prevent some of those things, I think is huge. I've seen some benefits that do offer adult orthodontics. So normally when we think of orthodontics and braces, we're thinking of children, but a lot of companies are starting to offer more of an orthodontic adults as well. So as an employee, you can take advantage of that as well. And that can be, like the old school metal braces. It can also be Invisalign. So it's not something that's becoming super common, but I think that there are companies that are really paving the way for that benefit as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I think that's an often overlooked part of things. And the night guards, I know so many people who wear night guards. I don't wear one, but I do actually have braces, and they're clear braces, so they're not as easily seen. But we do have an insurance plan that covered it, and it was going to be $12,000 without insurance, and I paid $3,000 for them. Paying attention to those little nuances, but there have been very few that I've seen that have covered that. Thankfully, there was one plan available. And knowing that it doesn't have to be something to where you can pick a benefit based off of the things that you want to do, and that's okay. Braces for me, a little bit more aesthetic of a thing. That's fine. So consider what those are for you. When it comes to some of the other typical things, I'll see legal insurance being an option on benefits. The disability insurance, we always suggest that clients take the disability insurance. We sometimes see things like life insurance on there that will just be offered as a benefit, not any extra cost. And I know we're often talking about, hey, as child-free individuals, you don't necessarily need life insurance unless somebody's depending on your income. But we never discourage clients from taking that benefit if it's just offered to you and you don't have to pay anything extra. What else is there? Pet insurance is being added more and more. And when we talked the first time, you kind of talked about pet insurance, but then you also had some good ideas surrounding pets. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've only seen this one time, but one of the things with pets, especially with child-free, we don't child-free employees, we don't have children. So a lot of companies offer like a daycare benefit for their employees. So they pay something towards, a daycare cost for employees. But one company I've seen has also expanded that benefit to include doggy daycare. So I have a dog. She's super expensive. Doggy daycare is super expensive as well. And so to have a company say, like, we see you and we know that, and we're going to be paying this benefit if you had children, but you don't. So we're going to be paying it for your pets. This is huge. This is just one thing that when I first heard of it, like blew my mind because it was just something I'd never heard of. But it's a way that company said, we want to make this benefit more inclusive. So what can we do? I talk about it with my clients, and I'm hoping that, it becomes something that's more common because a lot of us have pets.
And it's such a nice way to kind of integrate the benefits to be a little bit more equitable across the board, because that doggy daycare is expensive. And yes, you can work from home. I think there's this misconception of you work from home, therefore you don't need it. Well, it might be good to actually take your dog out and take them to daycare and do those things. And if you have those benefits and can utilize it, that's a fantastic way to go about it. I love that you brought that up too, because you're actually child free. And that was one of the things when I was looking for an employee benefit specialist that I looked for. And I asked somebody, and that's how Christy and I got connected, because I asked somebody else that I knew. And I said, okay, I know that you know people in employee benefits. I need somebody who fits a list of these factors, and one of them was being child-free, and Christy was on this list, and such a gem to go through this. I love that you kind of approach things differently, though, when you're talking about these employee benefits and selecting it. Can you tell me more about how you take your approach and try and really tailor it towards having something almost custom-like, but really fits and is advanced, I would say. When I talk to you, I just think of you, my perception of you is that you think of employee benefits and try and make them as advanced as possible.
Yes, absolutely. So I think like as an employee benefits broker working with HR teams, this is something that I have such a passion for. So I really like to get to know my clients. I want to learn about their company culture because that will really help determine, what are they going to be open to? Some are, maybe not as open. They're becoming more open, but then there's some that are just wide open. Like whatever you have, whatever brand new idea it is that you have, please bring that to us. So it's really nice to see those companies because that's how things change. We have small little changes, but it's just people are going to hear about it. People are going to hear about these new benefits they've never heard of. And then they're going to take it to their employer. And it's just going to be something that's just going to be coming, oh, this is just something that we offer now, And so I feel like just really understanding the culture, but also pushing it along as well. So it's our responsibility as a broker to bring these new things to employers as well, because we want them to keep their good employees. We want them to be able to hire the good employees as well. So whatever we can do to help them as well, because recruiting is such a big part of your job. So if you can, take part of that off, and obviously by keeping your current employees, you're not going to have to recruit as much as well. So I just think that it's just the key is really just to get to know the people that you're working with. And then that will really help and build those relationships. Because then once they can trust you as well, just having that trust and that relationship is just super important.
I love that. Trust is such a foundation of so many things. And often at times, when I look at society as a whole, we're kind of becoming a bit more untrusting of one another. And that's not helpful because that's not how we change things and make things better for everybody. We need to work towards how can we build trust, but also how can we be somebody who's trustworthy as well. And going through and employee benefits, understanding that, making sure you're creating policies as on the broker side, but also on the employer side is so beneficial. That's a fantastic thing for our clients who do have, or our clients and listeners, of course, who do have businesses and are looking to make things a little bit better for them. We kind of skipped over diving into some of those other benefits, like the disability insurance, which we have talked about a bunch on this podcast, the legal benefits. We talked a little bit about the health insurance. Can you just please hit on disability insurance as far as what you've seen from that side of it, and then as well as the legal benefit?
Yes, absolutely. So disability, a lot of companies are offering either a short-term or long-term or both. And oftentimes one or both are paid by the employer. So disability insurance is very important to have as an employee. And it's even better if it's paid by your employer. Disability, it can be broken down by short-term and long-term disability. So short-term covers for a shorter period of time, usually 90 days, so 3 months. And then that's when long-term disability kicks in, and that's going to cover you for a longer period of time. So what we're also seeing, in addition to company paid or company offered disability plans, is a lot of states are also implementing or considering adding a paid leave benefits as well. I work in the state of Minnesota, and we are implementing a state paid leave in 2026. So we're working with all of our clients to get that all set up. So that's a great benefit, and it's going to pay for part of your salary. So a lot of what the conversations we're having with employers are, okay, well, can we just get rid of our disability benefit or our short-term disability benefit? And you can, but it's also important to know that a lot of these state benefits aren't going to pay your employees full salary. And it's common. I mean, short-term disability usually pays, let's say, 60% of your salary. So even if you go out on disability and employer pay benefit, you're not going to get paid generally your entire salary anyways. But it is nice to be able to offer a short-term disability if your state does offer a paid leave plan as well, because it's nice to be able to bridge that gap. But it's, That's one thing. If you do work in a state that is offering one of those paid leave benefits, just look into that, because every state's going to be a little bit different. And then on the legal side, so sometimes through like another benefit, like life or disability, there is something called an EAP or employee assistance program. And those are free, confidential, and a lot of times include like a basic legal plan in there. So it's something where you can get some free or low cost advice from an attorney, or you can help plan your will as well for something. But then there's also standalone legal benefits as well that employers are offering. So those are going to just be more robust. So they're going to offer advice to employees. And sometimes if you want, if you're married, you can also have that benefit for them as well. And that's going to have more access to employees. And a lot of it is going to be included with that premium that is paid as well.
Yeah. And I'm glad you pointed out the having some sort of access to attorneys on there and some advice. I think it's important to remember that there's a limited amount, because I have seen people come into it with the perception of anything I need, I can go and contact them. No, it's limited. And usually you have to get, the ones I've seen are you have to call and you have to give them a bunch of information. Then they'll give you like a coupon code essentially with a list of specific attorneys that you can go to for whatever you need done. On the disability insurance, I did have another question about that and the paid leave. So what is that structure like when I know it's only in certain states right now, but having that paid leave versus having the disability insurance, how do a lot of people qualify for these things? And what's the process like to actually go ahead and receive those benefits?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, every state is a little bit different. The employer themselves can decide whether they want to offer the benefit through the state or they can go private. And a lot of that depends on cost. So for the state of Minnesota, for example, we know what the tax rate is going to be for 2026 for this benefit. And that's for all employers, no matter the size, demographics, industry, that rate is flat across the board. So then what we're doing with all of our clients that we're working with is we are going out to either their current life and disability carrier or other carriers and seeing what their rates are. But those carriers are looking at gender, age, industry. So they're factoring all of that in. So the rate's going to be specific for that company. So it really depends on the cost for that. So if an employer chooses to just go through the state, then when an employee has a claim, everything is done through the state. So they'll have to either go onto a website, call a phone number to get the process started. If it's private, and usually it's going to be paired with your life and disability carriers, employees can just go through the same process as if they would have a short-term disability claim and get paid through from the carrier instead of from the state. What we've seen is the state plan tends to pay out in a much more delayed fashion that we're seeing with the carriers. So there's a lot of factors going into making these decisions. Do we want to go state or versus private? And they're also factoring in the employee experience as well, because they, even though the benefit is going to be through the state or through a carrier, those employees are going to come to the HR team and ask questions. And so what's going to be the best for the company as a whole and for the employee experience as well.
I'm glad you pointed that out there. With the payment, it being delayed when it comes from the state versus private, is there like a percentage? 60% is usually the max for when it's private. That's what we've seen a lot. There are sometimes, to be careful of, caps as well, saying we'll only pay 60% up to $10,000 a month is a pretty common one that I see on there. So if you have a higher income, just be mindful of that if there's any cap there that might impact you. But when it comes to the state ones, is there a cap? And what's about the percentage usually that's paid out?
Sure. Yes, there is going to be a cap. And I would say the percentage ranges from 60% to 90%, really depending on your salary, because there's a percentage cap. And then just like with disability, there's going to be a maximum paid out. It might say, I know it's just like going into the state of Minnesota just because that's the one I know the best. The calculation is super complicated, of course. 3 different calculations that go into this number. So it's calculating 50% of a certain number and then 50% of another number, 50% of another, and then putting those together. So it's super complicated, so depending on, what your salary is, it could range from 70 to, I would say, maybe 90%. On that. And then if you do have that short-term disability benefit, you can use that to kind of bridge the gap as well.
Okay. And is there a timeline when we're looking at the disability policies? We're often saying we want own occupation for our clients. Always try and get that because it's protecting you. We say, like, if I can't be a financial planner anymore, but I can go work at a bookstore, which would be an amazing job, truly. I would love to work at a bookstore, but they're going to pay very differently. If there is one employee benefit that you wish people would take more advantage of, what would that be?
That is a fantastic question. I would definitely say, I know you've talked about it a lot. Obviously, disability is something that's very important. I won't go into that, but I would say taking advantage of a retirement savings plan. So I'm not a financial planner, so I won't get into all of the ins and outs of that. But I think it's easy when you're thinking of retirement to first think of a 401k. I won't go into all of the reasons why you should contribute to your 401k, but if your employer has a matching contribution, 100% taking advantage of that. If your company matches 100% of what you can contribute up to, let's say, 6%, contribute that 6% if you can afford to do so. Along with 401k, if you're covered under a high deductible health plan and can contribute to a health savings account or HSA, this is another way to save for the future. I see a lot of employees in HSAs. I have been in one for years. Huge supporter of HSAs, but this is actually another way to save for your retirement. So we're not seeing a lot of employees using these to the fullest extent, and there might be some things in an HSA that you might not be aware of. So there's obviously benefit contributing to an HSA. There's a benefit where you can pay for your medical, dental, and vision expenses. And then a lot of times your employer will actually either deposit money into your HSA account or will have matching similar to a 401k. So we'll match dollar for dollar up until, let's say, $500, for example. So in addition to being able to contribute, investing your HSA dollars is maybe something that employees aren't aware of. So it is intended to be a savings account. So while it can be used for expenses today, it really is meant to be used for expenses in the future. You can use it at any time, whether you, let's say you leave the company and you have a medical plan that's not a high deductible health plan, you can still use these dollars towards your medical expenses. And you can even use it in retirement as well. Going back to investing, being able to invest those HSA dollars allows your funds to grow on a tax-free basis. You usually have to have like $1,000 or $2,000 in that account to be able to invest money. But I would say, contribute to the maximum that the IRS allows you to do in that HSA. And invest it if you have $1,000 or $2,000, whatever your company has that minimum is. There's no taxes going in or out of these benefits or of these accounts, as long as they're being used for intended purposes. And you can't say that about 401ks. So, if you're putting money in pre-tax, you're paying money out. You're paying taxes out when you're taking that money out. You could be contributing post-tax now and might be pre-tax or not taxed in the future. But one way or another, you're going to be taxed on the 401k, and with the HSA, you're not taxed going in or going out as long as you're spending that money on what it's meant to be spent. I would also say, again, contribute to that. And these are not use it or lose it accounts. A lot of people think, oh, we'll have to use the money at the end of the year. They roll over no matter what your balance is. So I like to call them use it or keep it, because all of the money you have at the end, all of the money you have at the end of the year rolls over. And then if you change employers, whether they offer an HSA or not, that money, even what your employer put into that account, that goes with you. So you take that with you wherever you go. These are accounts that we're just not seeing employees fully utilize them to what they can be used for and what they can help you with in the future as well.
Hey listeners, like what you're hearing? Don't miss a thing. Sign up for the Child Free Wealth newsletter for weekly tips, tools, and podcast updates. Head to childfreewealth.com/newsletter to get on the list.
Yeah, they're such an important thing. I'm glad you brought that up because they are super helpful for people and we see a lot of it. I do want to make sure that I add a point to what you were saying there, just because I've seen this mistake with clients is you can still have the account when you don't have a high deductible health plan, but you cannot contribute to it. So that is a mistake that I've seen come across. It doesn't happen super often, but it does happen every once in a while that I just want to make sure I give that preface for people. It's not a fun rewind. We often have been encouraging clients to take and let's use that HSA money and set it aside to pay for long-term care premiums, whether you're getting an insurance policy or pay for long-term care in the future. We do follow that principle here at Child Free Wealth of we don't necessarily want to use the HSA today. That's going to be something we put away and use for time in the future. And the tax advantages of it are fantastic as well. You can use it in the future. Should you not use it for medical expenses, it does work like an IRA once you hit 65. And on that, I don't love encouraging people to do it that way, though. I would much rather you take and use that money and have a plan for that to be your long-term care payment because of those tax advantages that you mentioned there. That has been so wonderful. I want to just end by having you give one piece of advice for people who are in the open enrollment season and what they should be thinking about or considering.
Yes. So open enrollment. This is the one time per year that you can make changes to your benefits. It's really important to pay attention to the benefits that your employer offers. So you're most likely going to be given like a benefits guide or some sort of open enrollment materials that will summarize the entire benefits package for the next plan year. It's an overview, so most likely it's not going to go into a ton of detail, but read through that guide, attend any open enrollment meetings if your employer offers these, ask questions, because if you have a question, chances are someone else in your company is going to have the same question, because these meetings are really intended for your employer to go through if there are changes with carriers or benefits, or if they're offering any new benefits for the next year. A great opportunity for you to learn, but again, ask questions. I know when I was on the HR side, almost every year I'd have an employee come up to me after a meeting and be like, when did we start offering this benefit? It's like, oh, we've actually had this for 5 years, but sometimes it doesn't really click until it actually affects you or you're thinking about something. Like, just really try to read through that. I know benefits is boring to some people. I love it, but really read through that because you'll probably learn something or you're probably going to find a benefit that you didn't know that they offered. So definitely educate yourself on your benefits.
Thank you so much. This has been fantastic and such a great conversation. I hope our listeners learn as much as I have from talking to you. If people want to learn more about you or find you, or even if they're a business, particularly in Minnesota, and want to connect, do you work with businesses outside of Minnesota?
We do. Yep. We work with all 50 states.
Wonderful. Well, where can they find you then?
Sure. So I would say find me on LinkedIn. I have a very common name, but I work for the Horton Group. So if you search for Christy Smith Horton, you'll be able to find me at LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a rating or review. We'd love to keep the conversation going. Please let us know your thoughts wherever comments are available or email us at media@childfreewealth.com. To stay up to date, find and follow Child Free Wealth on social media. If you're interested in working with us, learn more by visiting our website, childfreewealth.com. We'll see you next time.